Cleveland has always made some of my favorite wedges, and they've put a lot of the same features into their newer irons. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing the CBX and the UHX irons from Cleveland and talking about which ones are going to be right for you. So what we're going to be covering in this video are how these irons felt and sounded at impact, were there any differences in distance and forgiveness between them, and then which ones are going to be right for you. We also tried to find the cheapest place to pick them up, and we're going to be talking about that as well. Before we get started, I will just mention our gear giveaway. So if you want to enter into that, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment giveaway down below. Do those three things and you'll be automatically entered. So let's start off by talking about the sound and feel of these irons. So both of these are game improvement irons, which don't always have the best sound and feel to them. You know, sometimes they are, or they can feel a little bit hollow, and sometimes they can feel really high pitched at impact, and I'm definitely not the biggest fan of those, but I was pleasantly surprised with how solid they both felt at impact and the sound they generated. Both of them had a nice and clean sound, and they felt pretty solid. Even on miss hits, they were pretty good. Some people aren't going to like that just because they don't offer a whole lot of feedback, so just being able to instantly tell where you hit the ball wrong, that kind of thing. Some people want to know that right away. Some people don't care, so it's completely up to you. With that being said, these irons are designed for your mid to high handicap players, so that probably doesn't matter for them anyway. The UHX irons are progressive in that the shorter irons are cavity backs, while the longer irons are hollow. I was a bit worried that they'd feel different throughout the set. That actually wasn't the case at all. All the clubs felt the same for the most part, and they didn't feel like a game improvement iron really. So I was really impressed with that, but overall, the sound and feel of the UHX and CBX irons were top notch, and there wasn't really much that I would personally want improved myself. So let's talk about distance and forgiveness, because the most important thing for a mid to high handicap player is the forgiveness and distance of their irons. So they want to be able to smack it long and straight down the fairway, and they're not too worried about like spin, control, and other stuff like that. If you are looking for that, then you might want to look at something else. But the forgiveness these irons provided is something Cleveland's been working on for quite a while. I wouldn't really say that they're the most forgiving irons on the market, but they do still do a great job. Some irons, they're like straight forgiveness, but when that's the case, like versatility goes out the window. So these irons are very forgiving, but they can still be used for the slightly better players. The main sort of difference I noticed with them was in the longer irons. So the longer CBX irons are cavity backs, while the longer UHX irons are utility hollows. It wasn't, a night and day difference, but I was a bit more consistent with the longer UHX irons off the fairway and out of the rough. So that was kind of the one main difference I noticed with them. But overall, they were both pretty good in that regards. But the distance between them was pretty much the same for me when they were struck purely. So the launch angle and spin were essentially the same, but there was a slight difference in the longer irons. Because the longer UHX irons they're a bit more forgiving. They were slightly longer on miss hits, but when they were both struck solid, they were pretty much the same in my experience. So I'm not saying that's going to be the case for you, but that was the case for me, and it was something I noticed right away. But if I had to choose which irons would I personally go with, I'll start off by saying both of these irons are super solid, and I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. I think it'll come down to how much you have to spend and how often you're going to be using them. Like, are you a casual golfer or like an every week sort of thing? If you do have the money to spend and plan on using them a lot, then you might want to consider the UHX irons. They have a good amount of offset, so they might not be the best for lower handicap players, but everything else was super solid. They're around like $200 more than the CBX irons, but the longer irons were a bit more consistent for me. But if you are just an average player who doesn't want to spend a fortune and you don't really care about the slightly better consistency in the longer irons, go with the CBX irons. They were pretty much the same in every other category, and they are actually one of my favorite irons to hit. They are forgiving, they're long, and they have a solid feel to them. But the choice is really up to you, but the best thing to do would be to try them out for yourself. Everyone's going to be different, and everyone's going to have a different opinion. But if you would like to see more images or more reviews of any of these, or pick them up for the lowest price available, click the link in the description down below. At the time of making this video, that was the cheapest place I could find them, so you can go ahead and check out the current price if you want. And if you do have any questions, just simply leave a comment down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. But if you haven't already watched and commented on our latest video, click the video card to the left and get yourself another entry into our golf giveaway.